You know, I think when I sit with it for a second here, I just want people to know that I'm a real person.
It was through scholarships, financial aid programs, and work study where my earnings from a job on campus went to
as a role model. And I think it's a missed opportunity if I'm not doing something to show them how you want to move in the
What if I told you the fairy tale story you've been fed about Meghan Markle isn't the whole truth? For years, rumors have swirled like wildfire about a mysterious chapter in her past, one that whispers of Vegas chapels, sealed documents, and even a missing year that no one, and I mean no one, can fully explain. Some whispers go even further, claiming Meghan isn't just a mom today. Allegedly, she might already be a grandmother. Right now, today, not in some distant future. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that's true, but the kind of allegations that bounce around social media are wild enough to make anyone pause and go, wait, what if?
Direct from Meghan's ex-husband, Trevor Engelson, via an intermediary.
So let's rewind, back before tiaras, back before the royal titles, before the world knew her as Duchess Meghan, back when she was just Rachel from Suits. Because before the polished media image, before the glam and carefully curated persona, there was a man who saw Meghan for who she really was. He knew the unfiltered version. And that man, he's the one name royal gossip blogs never get tired of typing, Trevor Engelson.
Prince Harry flaunts his family wealth in a latest cringeworthy bid to overshadow.
Yes, Trevor Engelson, a Hollywood producer, successful, ambitious, and for years, Meghan's everything. He wasn't some fling, he wasn't a rebound, he was her first husband, the man who stuck by her side for 7 years before the two tied the knot in a laid-back beach wedding in Jamaica. But let me tell you, what happened next is where the fairy tale begins to look more like a soap opera. Their marriage didn't just fall apart, it imploded so suddenly, so brutally, that Trevor was left blindsided, with his world spinning.
Why was Prince Harry so easily seduced by Meghan Markle? Because
we're talking about a relationship that ended so abruptly that Meghan allegedly sent her engagement and wedding rings back in the mail. No tearful goodbye, no long heart-to-heart, just rings in an envelope, like returning a broken appliance. Now, let's be real. Trevor had every opportunity to turn his heartbreak into a gold mine. He could have cashed in big on the fact that he was once married to the woman who became royalty. Publishers reportedly dangled massive checks in front of him. Tabloids practically begged. Every media outlet wanted his side of the story. But Trevor, he said nothing. Nothing at all. Complete, deafening silence.
Loyalty, before the Netflix deals and global headlines, Meghan Markle was just another actress grinding in Los Angeles, trying to...
And let's be honest, that silence, it speaks volumes. Because according to whispers from those close to them, Trevor didn't stay quiet just to be noble or classy. Sources hint that Trevor has been sitting on secrets. Secrets passed along through mutual friends. Secrets about chapters in Meghan's past that happened long before the world ever knew her. Secrets that, if ever dragged into the light, would make that Oprah interview look like playground gossip. One detail in particular stands out. Trevor allegedly confided to friends that Meghan's carefully curated timeline didn't add up with what he discovered while they were together. Her official story and his reality, two very different versions.
Exclusive. Meghan's ex-husband tells all in highly anticipated tell-all book, in a move that is sure to cap.
And now, years later, those secrets are said to be bubbling back to the surface. Not directly from Trevor, but through intermediaries. People who just can't hold their tongues anymore. And this leaves us all asking, what on earth could be so damaging that a man would turn down millions to keep it buried? To answer that, we've got to go back. Way back. Back to when Meghan wasn't Duchess, wasn't even Rachel from Suits. Just an 18-year-old girl from Los Angeles, filled with big dreams. And if you believe the whispers, standing at the edge of decisions that would haunt her for decades.
Trevor, who had remained in the shadows for nearly a decade, realized he had been recast in her story, not just a...
While most of her peers were juggling college applications and part-time jobs, gossip swears Meghan was allegedly making choices far more serious. Imagine this: Sin City, not the polished, glitzy Vegas of movies and million-dollar receptions. The Vegas where the neon lights burn all night, where tiny chapels churn out weddings by the hour, no questions asked. That's the Vegas her name allegedly got tied to, and people have been buzzing about this for years. And the name at the center of this Vegas storm? Joe Giuliano. According to the rumor mill, this wasn't just some drunken spur-of-the-moment oops wedding. No, speculators say family members were there as witnesses. This wasn't chaos, it was deliberate, planned. But here's where it gets juicier. Allegedly, the marriage didn't end with a normal divorce that leaves a paper trail anyone can dig up. Nope, this story takes a legal twist that has conspiracy theorists hooked. The alleged union supposedly ended with an annulment. Now, for anyone not fluent in legalese, annulment basically means this marriage never happened. Delete, gone, erased. And in Nevada, with the right lawyers and paperwork, those records, they can vanish from the public eye. What really fuels the fire, though, are claims that the Giuliano family had both the money and the motive to make sure this entire Vegas chapter disappeared permanently. We're talking sealed court files, vanished documents, and a paper trail that stops cold. And the strangest part? The total blackout from Meghan herself during this time. No photos online, no old friends from that era stepping forward with stories, nothing. It's like someone went in and scrubbed that period of her life squeaky clean. And when a chunk of someone's past gets wiped that thoroughly, people start asking, what was so important to hide? So buckle up, because the Vegas Chapel whispers, that's only the tip of the iceberg. The juiciest part of Meghan's story comes next, the missing year. A year that, on paper, doesn't even exist in her official timeline. According to her public biography, after she finished high school in 1999, Meghan supposedly took what she called a gap year before starting at Northwestern University. Sounds normal enough, right? Tons of students take a gap year to travel, to find themselves, to bulk up their applications. On the surface, harmless. But scratch beneath that surface and you'll see why researchers and gossip sleuths have been obsessed with this ever since. The official story goes, Meghan traveled the world. She experienced cultures. She saw life beyond Los Angeles. Sounds impressive, sounds picture perfect, sounds exactly like the kind of narrative you'd want to sell if you were aiming to become a sophisticated actress or a worldly duchess down the road. But here's the thing. Where's the proof? There are no photos. None. No study abroad paperwork. No exchange program records. No plane tickets. Nothing. In today's world, even back then, students would at least have a few pictures or documents to prove a trip happened. But Meghan? A total information gap. For people who've spent years digging into her past, this absence feels like a flashing red sign. Something doesn't add up. So the internet sleuths started digging deeper. If Meghan wasn't traveling the world like her story says, then where was she? According to theories that link back to, you guessed it, the Giuliano family, Meghan wasn't hopping between European cafes or backpacking through exotic jungles. Instead, she was living quietly, very quietly, in Chicago, not in a glamorous apartment, not with Hollywood friends, with the Giuliano family. Keeping a low profile, staying out of the spotlight, and that's where things get really suspicious. Why would an 18-year-old with the world at her feet suddenly hide away in the Midwest with people who weren't even her family? Why the silence? Why the shadows? Why such careful management of her whereabouts? Internet theorists say this was no ordinary gap year. They argue this period is the most carefully controlled, most tightly locked down part of Meghan's entire life story. And when a year is scrubbed this hard, people assume there's something very big to hide. And here's where the bombshell lands. If any of this is true, the Vegas marriage, the annulment, the missing year, the alleged baby Noel, the grandmother whispers, then Meghan Markle's public fairy tale was built on a foundation of carefully buried secrets. Secrets Trevor Engelson of all people may have seen up close. And now, internet communities swear those secrets are edging closer and closer to daylight. Because here's the one thing Meghan can't control: time. Babies grow up. Alleged children turn into adults. Adults ask questions. They dig. They want to know where they came from. And if Noel is out there already a parent themselves, then there are grandchildren who will one day start asking questions too. How long before those answers collide with Meghan's carefully managed royal image? Now think about it. You can hide documents, you can control narratives, you can scrub timelines, but you cannot stop human curiosity. And that's exactly what Meghan is up against if even a fraction of these whispers are true. Theories like these don't fade, they grow, they get louder. They pick up traction online, especially in forums that thrive on digging into inconsistencies. And the deeper they dig, the more details they claim to uncover. Some say Meghan's relentless distance from her family isn't just about privacy, it's strategic. A shield. Her father, cut off. Half-siblings, vanished from her orbit. Childhood friends, nowhere in sight. Even people who knew her back in her Northwestern days rarely surface in her story. And according to gossip communities, that's no coincidence. They argue it's all part of a pattern. She keeps at bay the very people who might remember different versions of events. And Trevor Engelson? He's still the biggest enigma of them all. The man who could have cashed in with tell-all books and blockbuster interviews, yet he remains silent. Why? Some say loyalty, some say fear. Others say he's holding back because what he knows isn't just embarrassing, it's explosive. Imagine sitting on knowledge that could turn the Duchess's carefully crafted public image upside down. That's Trevor's reality, if the whispers are true. And that's why people can't stop speculating. They see the patterns, they point to the missing records, the strange edits, the sudden cutoffs with friends and family, the rumors of hidden chapters. And then they look at the bigger picture. A duchess who built an entire empire on the idea of resilience, reinvention, and truth-telling. The irony? If these theories hold weight, the truth is exactly what's missing. Because if Meghan did have a child in the mid-90s, if that child is Noel, if Noel now has their own family, then the biggest royal scandal scandal of our time isn't happening inside the palace. It's happening in the shadows, in sealed files, in whispers Trevor Engelson has carried for years. It's happening in the questions no one dares ask out loud. Who really is Meghan Markle? How much of her story is curated, and how much was buried before the cameras ever arrived? And here's the catch. Secrets like these don't stay buried forever. Babies grow up, adults demand answers, families expand, paperwork surfaces. The world is far more connected than it was in the 90s, and gossip doesn't just vanish anymore, it trends. It goes viral. And when it does, it doesn't matter how many PR strategies you have in place. The story takes on a life of its own. So let's lay it out plain. If the theories are true, if Meghan did allegedly have a child she never publicly acknowledged, if she is now secretly a grandmother while raising Archie and Lilibet under the royal spotlight, then we are staring at the most carefully managed narrative in modern royal history. A narrative built not on openness, but on omission. And Trevor Engelson, he holds the receipts whether he ever decides to share them or not. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why this story refuses to die. The Vegas chapels, the annulments, the missing year, the whispers of Noel, the grandmother claims, it all paints a picture that challenges the glossy fairy tale. Will it ever be proven? Maybe not. Will it ever stop people from speculating? Absolutely not. Because in the age of social media, missing chapters don't stay missing forever. The final question isn't whether Meghan Markle has secrets. The real question is, when the truth finally surfaces, because gossip always finds a way, what will it do to the image she's fought so hard to create?